I'll be honest, she doesn't sound healthy. Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video where today we are here with the start of a potentially all new series. Today we're here on Assetto Corsa, a game that's been around for the better part of 10 years now, which really makes me feel old. But I'm back with some mod content, with a new series I'm dubbing Ring That Thing. We're basically going to be taking different Formula 1 cars that I want to drive that maybe not the most memorable for the right reasons in the world of Formula 1, and I don't think we could have started it any better than with the worst Formula 1 car of all time. Or at least what some Ferrari fans will claim on Twitter. This is the Ferrari F14T, and today I'm going to explain what made this car so bad in so many people's eyes. Where do we begin then with the Ferrari F14T? To be honest, I think I probably ought to explain this series just a little bit more. Obviously, many of you know I'm a huge Formula 1 fan. I have been for a very long time, and one of the things I've always wanted to do with this channel is try and teach sort of newer fans and fans that maybe have only come to the sport in recent years a bit more about the history of Formula 1. Now, admittedly, 2014 to a still wants to believe is younger man myself wasn't that long ago until I look at the calendar and realise it was nearly 10 years ago now. I really am starting to get up there. Yeah, when I got to 100,000 subscribers, I thought, now I've got to go back and sort of enjoy some of the other videos and sort of drive some of the Formula 1 cars that I've always wanted to. And this one, I want to drive for all the wrong reasons. Now, anyone that's kicked around Twitter in the past will have probably seen a tweet at some point by someone with SV5, probably, in their Twitter handle, saying the Ferrari F14T, famously known as the worst Formula 1 car of all time. It was the first Ferrari Formula 1 car with a hybrid power unit, and it was known for understeering and oversteering all at once. There's a famous footage of Fernando Alonso trying to rag the thing around a free practice session in Abu Dhabi years ago, where he's literally counter-steering pretty much all the time. Was the F14T Ferrari's greatest ever hit? No, absolutely not. It took no race victories over the course of 2014, and I think it was their first winless season in a very long time, since probably the mid-1990s, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Was it the worst car of all time either? No, absolutely not. It still finished 4th in that year's championship. I think at some point down the line we might have to drive some of the toast runs. There were things like the Caterham and Mana Marussia of that year. Yes, this thing wasn't the greatest Ferrari ever, but it by far and away was not the worst car on the Formula 1 grid. But to put it into perspective, they did finish behind Williams that year, which not only goes to show how quickly Williams have fallen off in the world of Formula 1, but also goes to show just how Ferrari got these rules and regulations wrong. Now, the real question is then, how did they get them so badly wrong? Marco Mattiacci was the team principal of Ferrari. Yes, he's kind of forgotten, actually, as Ferrari's team principal in 2014. Of course, sandwiched between Stefano Domenicali, who led to some mixed success in the years prior. A few race victories, a couple of runners-up, and near misses in the championship. And, of course, Maurizio Arrivabene, who came in 2015, of course, alongside Sebastian Vettel. Mattiacci, his track record doesn't look great on the surface. He was only in power for 9 months. To be fair, he was meant to just be a stand-in as Ferrari were trying to push probably Arrivabene up the ranks. But he didn't do a particularly great job. So not only did, of course, Ferrari go winless throughout 2014, they took 2 podiums all year. Now, just remember, they had Fernando Alonso and Kimi Raikkonen in the car. 3 world championships between the pair of them. Both of them had won races in 2013, of course, early on in that campaign. Kimi Raikkonen, of course, winning the season opener in Australia back when he was bankrupting Lotus, and Fernando Alonso winning the slightly controversial British Grand Prix, of course, when there were huge tyre changes, and, of course, Sebastian Vettel had his gearbox failures. So Ferrari did come in with, 2 world champions. You're certainly, going to have to develop quite a bad car if neither of them can get a race victory there. And like I said, of course, they took 2 podiums all year long, both courtesy of Fernando Alonso. But Mattiacci and Fernando Alonso got on so badly, it forced Alonso out of the team. Of course, Kimi Raikkonen kind of, it's just Kimi, isn't it? He does his own thing. I don't think it would not surprise me if he genuinely never said a word to Mattiacci all year, for all we know. But yeah, Alonso and Matti actually did not get on well. Of course, Alonso then went back to McLaren for the ill-fated McLaren Honda project in 2015. But the big problem with this car, of course, was the power unit. Now, we'd come off 4 years of Red Bull and Renault domination. Everyone thought, you know, the end of the V8 era, the turbo hybrids were meant to change Formula 1. They were meant to bring it back, you know, great racing, unpredictable battles, and everything like that. No one, I think, had on their sort of predictions bingo card that Mercedes were then going to spend the next half a decade kicking faces in most years there. Mercedes got the regulations bang on. Of course, they've already brought out some trickery with their turbo placement and things like that, which of course no other teams had been able to sort of develop or even think about. So yeah, really, of course, the other power unit suppliers, of course, heading into 2014, Ferrari and Renault were really just left absolutely miles behind in terms of development there. So that's why, you know, the likes of Williams were able to do better than Ferrari in 2014. But honestly, doing this first lap then around the Nordschleife, the car doesn't feel too bad. I've got everything turned down, so we haven't quite got the full power from these cars. Now, of course, always, you know, power figures and everything like that are, you know, always shrouded in mystery in the world of Formula 1. This thing was probably producing in the ballpark of 800, 850, I reckon. Obviously, when it was first introduced, of course, you know, we did see all the teams make huge leaps and bounds with the power figures further on down the line. But yeah, 2014, you know, the power numbers were sort of a bit all over the place. Everyone was still trying to grasp the turbos. Everyone was still trying to grasp the hybrid technology as well. Of course, remember, Ferrari were one of the first teams to introduce KERS all the way back in 2009 as well there. But opening lap, this car's felt okay. I mean, an 8:17 is hardly setting the world alight, although I think that isn't actually the proper lap I've done. It would have been about 6:20 by the looks of it, based on that delta. But what if we turn everything up to 11 then, and really try and ring this thing? Right, so what I've done now then, is I've put this thing on its super soft tyres. Sadly, clearly they aren't modelled correctly on Assetto Corsa. I've put the even the hybrid technology up to hot lap mode. And we're going to see just how quick and potentially scary this thing really is. We'll cycle it through the first couple of corners, and then when I get out the S's down in towards flood plats, we'll really go for it. Probably also mention as well, of course, there will be a download link to this mod as well down in the description. Of course, it is loosely based off the SF15, but yeah, certainly is still a really, really good mod. Let's go for it though. Cycle up through those gears, and you can see already then, without even a particularly good run, down in towards flood plats. They're over the crest at practically 300 kilometers an hour. And I probably should have got the tyres up to scrub. That, luckily I've turned damage off, but that's not the way you go through there. I see what they now mean about the understeer on this thing then. Certainly was not expecting it to go that badly up through flood plats there on full, you know, sort of full fat Ferrari Italian prancing horses, that sort of thing. We will try and get a full lap hooked up in this car as well there, but now I've got to slowly try and wind it up then. It's definitely getting that oversteer. Of course, 2014, when you actually watch back some of the onboards, I think it's, you know, if you exclude the Mercedes dominance, quite an underrated season. Because, of course, the cars had so much torque that they hadn't had for years beforehand. And, of course, the turbo technology, you know, was pretty damn good already. But still, of course, not as sophisticated as it was now. You know, cars could certainly get very, very slippery down the straights and things like that. You know, they were very, very difficult to really try and manage, of course, as well. You know, I think a lot of people forget just how quick these cars obviously were down the straights, but they really did lack downforce, of course, before the second generation in 2017 there, of course, with the high downforce that the FIA seemed to believe would make the racing work. But none of us, of course, know really how well that went. Oh, a little bit wild there. I think I spotted 200 miles an hour down through Vauxhall. Of course, the dash is set to kilometers an hour, so 200 mph is about 324 there. For those of us that still use old Queen's English and all that old school stuff, but I mean, it's definitely got a little bit of understeer on it. Obviously, I'm running no assist, anything like that. So we should be getting the full fat Ferrari experience. You know, we are Fernando Alonso at the moment, but honestly, I haven't made any other big setup tweaks to the car. Like I said, I've literally just put it on soft tyres, put it up in hot lap mode, and things like that. I think sadly we've completely drained the battery incredibly quickly on this lap. It's not that bad. I mean, maybe it's the mod, I don't know, but it doesn't handle... Whoa, you get those little moments where it oversteers a bit, of course, because you've got so much torque, but whether it's Assetto Corsa as well, you know, potentially this seems obviously a little bit easier than a lot of the other ones, of course, now on the market. It catches up quite nicely again. I'm sure I'm going to say this and then we'll get a big moment quite soon, but this thing isn't that bad. What was Alonso complaining about? 300 kilometers an hour though, as we get towards the end of the back straight. Easy flat. I mean, the Nordschleife, of course, my favourite track in the world. That was the other big reason why I wanted to do this series. That's quite a lock up down into there, but yeah, Nord's my favourite track in the world, so I was always looking for an excuse to do more racing around here, especially after VLN last weekend. Yeah, I was looking for a reason to do more laps, but yeah, so far this thing isn't too bad. I'm intrigued to see what sort of lap time we'll be able to get out of it. You know, maybe I'll have to set up a bit of a time board against the other cars there, as I think the final sector is really going to be where this thing gets quite scary. Of course, you know, you haven't got that downforce that we used to in the modern Formula 1 cars, but this thing was also a bit lighter. Remember, these cars only weighing, I think, about 600 kilos, weren't they, rather than the 800 of Formula 1 cars now. As we wind our way, of course, these corners just come thick and fast. You go down through the left, in through the right there. It's a YouTube corner. Wave to the cameras. Hope that you don't trash your Ferrari prized possession there as you try to avoid that curb in this car. Otherwise, it will unsettle you there. Gets close again. That's what I mean about the oversteer there. Just a little snap from the rear end as it tries to break free there. Down through the dip. One gear. Back up into sixth there once you've got the car rotated through a huge amount of understeer there as we lift it off over the hill, but we somehow keep the car planted. Avoid that curb. I have not done that time round. As we wind our way down in towards the final couple of corners. These two turns I've got to brake a lot more than I ever expected to in my practice laps. Was not taking enough speed out of there. I think it's just the track falls away from you on the exit. Down through mini carousel. You just got to gather it up nicely on the exit. I think if you were racing this thing around here in real life, first of all, how mad are you? Second of all, I think you definitely have to avoid both carousels, but luckily this is a sim. We can do whatever we want. Let's sort of see what top speed then we're able to get as we head back up the straight. I think we're going to struggle a bit, of course, like I said, because we've run out of battery, so yeah, we're probably only going to be able to get like 315 by the time we get up to the Bilstein Bridge. No, 310, so that's about 190 miles an hour for Church of England, but up under the bridge then, so we are going to have to try and look about how we can save some battery over our proper attacking lap there. But down in towards Tiergarten, towards the end of the lap, of course, through here, you're already eyeing up your braking point. Not in this. Braking there, really like huge lock up on the way in, but somehow we get the car rotated through. Thank goodness for Assetto's very lenient tyre model on occasion there. That's a 740, but again, not a proper representative. I reckon we should be looking under 6. I think under 6 is quite fair. Maybe sort of around the 540 mark. I don't really know. Right, well, I've done my installation lap. I think we've got the car ready and working where we want it. I've even actually set up on one of my wheel binds for the MG UK delivery. Let's go for a lap then around the Nordschleife in the Ferrari SF14T. Out of the final corner, up over the start-finish line, then braking just for the pit wall exit for turn 1 there. There's an apex through there, you never believe it, with the way I've just driven through. So we head down the hill then. Already you can feel just that power unleashed from this car there. The battery pack makes such a difference. Of course, only was providing like 150, 160 extra ponies, but when you think about it, that's a decent little car underneath you. Back in trying to wobble around as we head our way through the S's second gear through there, and then we'll short shift back at the fourth on the exit. Really try and utilise that torque off the corner. You don't have to rev the nuts off this car. It actually only is at the better of its rev range. Probably at about 12,500 as all. We dip the wheel on the grass somehow. Able to get the car straight and narrow once more there. We lost a tiny bit off the exit. I'm going to have to manage the ERS battery over the course of this lap as we head down completely flat, of course, through here. Avoid the bump on the entry, and then just at the change of the tarmac, you're slamming down the gears once more. Leaving it on third gear there. Fourth on the exit. Avoid that curb off the turn as we now plunge down the hill in towards Vauxhall there. Of course, not probably going to be able to achieve the speeds that we did last time round, but 315 clicks is not bad going there. About 195 as you try and flatten the car over the curb on the entry. Definitely will not do that in real life, and this is where you notice the big difference between this and a modern Formula 1 car there. It's so little grip and traction through those couple of corners. You really are just trying to hop, skip, and hope that the car grips up. Completely flat through here again, but it's not long before you're on the brakes. I had to actually blend the throttle slightly as I was worried I was going to understeer there. Avoid the curb on the inside, of course, we all know. I mean, you can't take the curbs around here on a GT3 car. What's the chance of doing it in a priceless Formula 1 car? There is again the torque trying to let the rear end overtake the front there, down in towards miss, hit, miss, big braking on the way in there, trying to get the car biting in. Of course, there's the inherent understeer that this thing's known for. Tiny lock-up as we head through one of the slowest corners on the lap, and then again trying to unleash the throttle off the exit there, down in towards Adobe there, braking on the entry curb, and they're over the bridge, try and keep it over on the left-hand side there. As you head back up the hill, car goes really light there as the back end again wants to try and shoot round, but we keep it in check this time round, down through the Lauda Links, of course named after one of Ferrari's most famous and decorated Formula 1 driver there. There's an apex there again, but understeer, that's what I'm going to blame it on. Never mind my lack of skill in this Ferrari Formula 1 car. So you head up the back straight. I'm going to bring it up into overtake mode there. Just use a little bit more of the battery pack. Try and get the best top speed I possibly can there. And like I said, at about, 2 of the blue LEDs, you actually want to try and upshift up into 8th gear there. You do carry a bit more speed. Definitely don't want to through there, as I've accidentally brought it down into low. There we go. Balance back up to high as we head now down in towards the second half of the lap. We're just over halfway around. There's another big lock-up. This car is still sensitive to those bumps, of course. Huge bumps around the Nordschleife. Can we get it dug into carousel? They're very, very early on the brakes, trying desperately to keep it in the camber there, and we can get a nice launch off the corner. But again, you've got to be so careful. These older cars, of course, ground effect might be very, very useful through there if you hadn't completely destroyed the floor. But I'm sure we would have by now. 4th gear as we head through there. Hate that corner, one of my least favourite on the lap, because I always nick the inside curb and it throws you at the outside wall. And now we head down in towards the S's then. 5th gear on the way in through the first. They're trying to tap that curb, one of the only ones you can reliably use around this track. Look at the one on the inside there, but try not to become too friendly. And then as we head down the hill, probably could have left it in 4th gear through there. Through YouTube corner we go once again. Again, just trying not to. Of course, you've made it so far around the lap. I said don't use that curb, and I went and did it anyway. But yeah, you just get so far around this lap that you start to hesitate a little bit. You start to lack belief in the car there. Down in through the dip. Oh, a huge spike of revs there, as the car really not a fan of that one. Again, through there, you're basically just praying that you don't turn in too early, and then cycling it back down in towards the final few corners of the lap. And you really are now eyeing up a move down the back straight. Of course, if you're racing other cars there, you're getting really, really close. 4th gear into there. Oh, scrubbed way too much speed in. We'll nudge the wall. Oh, gonna try and get away with that one. Luckily, of course, sim racing, the damage turned off, so we got a little bit lucky with that one. It probably cost us a second or so, but not too much in the grand scheme of things there as we try and get up towards the wall. As we now head out onto the back straight, going to flick it up into top speed. Of course, the highest speed circuit, or part of the circuit even, I should say, the 1.3 kilometre back straight here at the Nordschleife. As you can see, of course, we'll head past the tourist pit lane entry only a couple of months before. Hopefully I'm doing a lap around this circuit myself there. Wave to the fans, who I'm sure would have poured out to see a Ferrari Formula 1 car tearing it around the Nordschleife. Down in towards Tiergarten we go though. Get the car back into balanced high. What is the time going to be? I've got no time to look just yet. They're very, very early on the brakes, but we avoid locking up. We hit the apex nicely. One more corner to go of a lap round the Nordschleife. Get on the grass, up on the line. I think we crossed the line. It's a 5:25.603 there. Got a little bit scrappy out of the final corner, but you know what? We will absolutely take it. And I'll be honest, doing those practice laps, not quite pushing the car to the limit, I thought, this thing's not too bad when you're really going for it. Yeah, the inherent understeer and oversteer that this car had does become a bit more apparent there. But that's one way, I think, to get the blood flow going early on a beautiful Wednesday morning there. thank you all so much for watching this video. Let me know which car you would like to see me take out next. Of course, like I said, I'm going to try and keep it to Formula 1 cars with the theme of the channel, but maybe some other race cars as well in the near future. If you want to see more sim racing content from me, there'll be a link down in the description below over to my second channel. We're doing loads of iRacing content over there, and various other bits and pieces as well that I think you guys would love, of course. Planning on jumping into some Assetto Corsa Competizione. Make sure you follow me on Twitch. Hopefully I'm going to be streaming live on there in the very near future when I've got my new PC all set up and ready to go. But thank you all so much for watching, and we will be back very, very soon. You guys tell me, what next? Are we going to ring that thing? None of these videos would be possible without the help of our channel members, so a massive thank you to all of the names you see on your screens currently for helping support the channel. You can join them by clicking the join button down below, and yeah, thank you once again to everyone that continues all the insane support on my work.